You're listening to The Sports Moment. February 22nd, 2024. Part of the Sports Moments and Memories with Craig Olson podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss a sports moment. Sponsored by Pemberton Law and Lake Area Docks and Lifts.
Lake Area Docks and Lifts, more than just docks and lifts. Lake Area Docks and Lifts.
Welcome to Sports Moments and Memories with Craig Olson, and this week looking at Rex Haugen's coaching career at Pelican Rapids and celebrating his 3 state tournament teams on a week where Rex is being celebrated with the court at the Al Siegle Sports Activity Center being named in Rex Haugen's honor. Rex Haugen Court will be dedicated on Saturday afternoon between the junior varsity and varsity games. Pelican Rapids is hosting on a Saturday starting at 2 o'clock, Ada Borup West. And the first game is the JV game, and then between games about 3:15 or 3:30, somewhere in there, the court dedication in the name of Rex Haugen will take place. So I know there'll be a great crowd on hand. We're going to hear from members of the 1984 state championship team, along with Coach Haugen, in just a couple of minutes. First, though, let's talk a little hockey playoff action. And the Fergus Falls girls hockey team was shut out by Dodge County in the quarterfinal round of the Class A state hockey tournament on Wednesday afternoon. Otters were outshot 30-9 in that game, and they wound up being shut out by a score of 4-0. So they are playing today in the consolation semifinals. They'll take on a Wilmer team that has beaten them twice in games that they have played in the Central Lakes Conference schedule this year. So that 2 one-goal losses. So that will be interesting to see if the Otters can get them for the first time this year. If they win, they'll play again Saturday for the Consolation Championship at 10 a.m. A loss will end their season. And speaking of ending seasons, the Spartan men had their season end last night in St. Cloud, and they got out with a victory, 82-80 over the Cyclones. Kamani Stickler had a big night for the Spartan men, 19 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists to lead the way. Spartans end up 14-13 overall, 6-8 in MCAC Southern Division play. Now, the Lady Spartans are still going. They won last night also, had a great fourth quarter as they outscored St. Cloud 23-9 and won the game 63-49. And the Lady Spartans are now 12-10 overall. They are 6-5 in the MCAC South. They will play in the regional tournament next weekend, a week from Friday and Saturday. They will be hosting Minnesota North College Itasca at 1 o'clock this Saturday in what will be their final regular season game of the year. Lake Area Docks and Lifts is one of the sponsors of our podcast, helping you get ready for summer fun on the water from 5 different locations conveniently located throughout Lakes Country. That's Lake Area Docks and Lifts.
Lake Area Docks and Lifts, more than just docks and lifts. Lake Area Docks and Lifts.
You know, Pemberton Law carries a legacy of trustworthy and reputable legal representation dating back to 1883. And they have 4 locations across the region, an office in Fergus Falls, 1 in Wadena, 1 in Detroit Lakes, and 1 in Alexandria. And you can visit them online also at pemlaw.com. That's pemlaw.com. Well, we talked about the dedication of the Rex Haugen Court at Al Siegle Activity Center coming up on Saturday afternoon. And we are looking back this week to the 3 state tournament teams that Rex Haugen coached during his 31 years at the helm in Pelican Rapids. And today it's the 1984 state championship team. We look back to 1977 yesterday, and we'll look back to 1993 tomorrow. But for now, 1984. And I started my conversation with Tim Rogelstad, who was a junior on that state championship team, by asking him how he felt about Rex Haugen getting that court named for him on Saturday.
Well, I think it's very exciting, and I think there isn't anybody more well-deserving than Coach Haugen, and really a tribute to, what he meant to the community of Pelican Rapids and to the high school and to basketball. He is certainly a living legend amongst coaches in, certainly the area, but also the state of Minnesota.
Hall of Famer in that regard, and no doubt he deserves that. And Tim, you're on the 84 team, but in 77, the Vikings had a runner-up team in the state, and I'm sure as a young kid growing up, you probably remember that team. What do you remember about that year, and how did that influence you guys as young kids in your basketball?
That was, really an exciting time and really, quite honestly, probably set the dreams. I vividly remember I was in fourth grade, and that team, they were a little bit of an underdog. I think they were the third seed in the district, but man, they got on a roll, and then to really the first time to see the state tournament, to go down there and watch a game, and it was really from that point where it was in the driveway when you're shooting baskets by yourself, you were pretending, whether you were Jim Knutson or Peter Rested, Mike Martin, you name it, and pretending we were playing at the St. Paul Civic Center and shooting free throws at the end of the game to win it. But certainly it really, from my perspective, gave us a goal that, hey, this is something I want to be part of someday.
Well, this 1984 team had a lot of close games, especially at tournament time. And I asked Coach Haugen why they were so prepared for end-of-the-game situations.
A lot of times with both of those teams, we spent time during practices, with what I call it game situations. And we spent a lot of time in practice dealing with certain things or things that could happen as the game was winding down. And, we would have we're down 5 with 2 minutes to go. How do we handle this? And then we would just play, and then we had so many fouls, and they had so many fouls or whatever. And so actually, you can't predict all the circumstances that are going to happen, but if you've worked on some of them and believe that you can handle it, well, I think that builds a lot in the player's psyche that, hey, we can handle this, we can do this. And we had some guys that made some really big plays and made some real clutch free throws. So, what did we see in that title in the 84 team? I think we won the last 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the last 5 games we played, we outscored the opposition by 7 points.
And Tim Rogelstad also responded to the question, so many close games, how were you able to get it done?
Yeah, and that was really a tribute to Coach Haugen and our teammates. He had us so well prepared and had us so mentally ready that in those situations, we just knew we were going to win. And, I think, I've heard him say it various times, but, if we're down by 7 with 2 minutes to go, we got you where you want you, and we're going to get you. And, when I look at that tournament run that we had, one of the things I think back to is Christmas practice. And, that was back in the days when we had, 2 weeks of school off. There were no holiday tournaments, and it was 2-a-day practices. And it was the only time of year where we could do, where we would generally get the gym to ourselves. And so we could go the full, normally we'd share the gym with the girls team on every night, and we'd get half they'd put the curtain down and we'd get kind of a 3/4 court type of court to play on. But during Christmas, we had the full gym. And I remember vividly putting time on the clock, okay, we got 5 seconds We got to go the length of the floor. Okay, we're going to put 2 seconds on. We're, underneath the basket, inbounding it. We went through all these different, scenarios, if you will. And we really only practiced that hard or a lot over the Christmas. But man, when it came to tournament time, it was like they just came back to us. And I think we hit during that, 4 or 5 game stretch there, or that 3 or 4 game stretch, like 7 buzzer beaters, at the end of a quarter or at the end of a game to execute on that. And it just, again, it goes back to Coach Haugen's ability to prepare us. And that's something really sticks out to me.
Pat Westby was a standout player on that 1984 team. Pat, can you believe it was 40 years ago that you got that done?
Oh, Craig, where did that time go? No, I cannot believe that. 40 years goes by like a snap of a finger, and I tell you what, as we talk about that, and goosebumps still go up and down my spine, and I remember it like it was yesterday.
Well, good, because we're going to talk about it here for a while. So it was an outstanding season for you. And I look at some of these game scores, and you referenced it in some of the communication we had. I mean, you were involved in a lot of tight games, and especially at tournament time.
Yes, you look at the last, the setup at that time was the district tournament, region tournament, and the state tournament. And the last 4 games, the 3 games at the state tournament and the last game of the region championship, we won by a total of 7 points on all 4 of those games. And so, yeah, at the time, I don't think you think much of it. It's just, the opponent is in front of you, and, whether you win by 1 or 10, you just play. But now, 40 years later, you look back and you go, holy cow. There were some really close games.
And I talked with Coach Haugen a little bit about that, and he said you guys worked on it. You practice situations a lot of times in practice late in the game. What happens if this? What are we going to do if this is happening? Do you recall getting that type of preparation?
Craig, I do. We did work on game situations, and so I think that was one of the things is that particularly the state championship game. I think we held the ball for the last, minute 30 or minute 40, and I think everybody was expecting us to call a timeout and set up a play, and we didn't, and we just kind of rolled with it, and that's one of the things certainly about Coach Haugen is that he had us prepared. I don't ever recall a situation, Craig, where I didn't really know what to do or what he wanted us to do. We just knew. I mean, he had us prepared. So yeah, we worked on those things a lot in practice.
Well, how about it, Coach Haugen? Was there a better clutch player than Pat Westby?
Well, he turned out to be a clutch player. I can tell a little story about Pat. When we started the season, Pat was always used to playing on the wing. And so when we started that season, Pat was on the wing, and we had Tim Rogelstad kind of running the point. And when I think it was probably in January, maybe, and so we made a change. I know I came to Pat in practice, and I said, Pat, I'm going to run this by you. I'm thinking that we should make a change here. And he said, well, what's that? And I said, well, I think what we're going to do is move you to the point and move Tim to the wing. Oh God, I don't know about that. He wasn't into this big change. And I said, well, I'll tell you, there's not too many outfits that would have a 6'4" or 6'5" point guard. And not only that, now when you come down the floor, you're going to see the whole half of the floor, where when you're on the wing, you're only going to see a half of a half. And that's the way you're going to start. So unless you absolutely don't think that's something that'll work, I said, I think we need to make that move and see how it works out. Well, okay, we'll try it. Well, the next game we played Barnesville, and I think he had about 18 or 19 and had a heck of a game. And from that point on, he thought it was a pretty good move, I think.
Pat, how tough was that transition that Rex talked about to going from the wing to a point guard?
I do remember the conversation that we had at the time, and for me, I was playing basically the three spot or the small forward, and didn't handle the ball real well, or a lot. And so with that transition, I think the thing that made me the most nervous was handling the ball. And that's where I said earlier that if I think if people would have put some pressure on me, that I would have given it up pretty early and pretty easily. So there was a transition with that. However, I do think that it helped our team in a sense that when I was at the 3 spot, I was looked to be a scorer from that spot. And maybe at that time it was a little bit easier to key in on me as the scorer, whereas now as the point guard handling the ball, it opened up where I was able to get more of our guys involved. And so I think my own personal scoring went down a little bit, but the assists went up and our team was better. And so again, I think that's a pretty gutsy move from a coaching standpoint. You're midway through the season, and for all practical purposes, I think we had been beaten once. Things were going pretty well, and to make a change like that, obviously he saw something that maybe the rest of us didn't, and so I do think it made us all better.
The Region 6 championship game against Breckenridge featured 2 really good rivals and 2 outstanding coaches with Steve Lipp and Rex Haugen going at it, and it was at the best venue around, Concordia College in Moorhead, and Tim Rogelstad said it was an unbelievable atmosphere.
Concordia College Memorial Auditorium, I don't know that you can find a better atmosphere. It was packed. I mean, there were people, they had ropes set up around the end, chairs on the end line. Just a packed house and a great basketball game. And, we had lost to Breckenridge the second game of the year. I think probably put us back down on earth. But again, we knew we could play with them. And it was just a dogfight down to the end. And I remember, we had a few chances to put the game away, and we were able to do that. And then the excitement, honestly, winning the region championship was about as exciting as winning the state championship because of that environment with all the fans so close, and a really, really exciting time for sure. At
the state tournament, the 1984 team had a chance to avenge the loss from 1977 as they matched up with Winona Cotter, the team that won the 77 title game against Pelican Rapids. And the Vikings, well, Coach Haugen, that was pretty ironic that you got to play Cotter in the championship game again.
Yeah, that was quite a deal. That's for sure. We made some great plays going down the bell. We were down, I think, 3 or 4 with, I'd say about 2.5, 3 minutes. 2 minutes to go, more than likely, 2.5, and somebody made, I think Peter Larson made a shot to bring us within. He made a shot. I think either he or Tim Rogelstad made a shot to tie the game up, and so now we had about 2.5 minutes to go, and that was as close as we'd been for quite a while in the game. And then we went to some half-court traps and so on, and by golly, they turned the ball over, and we got it with less than 2 minutes to go, I think minute 50 or something. And we just decided to go on what we call crip or 4, and that just meant we're going for one shot no matter what. And if we get it, okay. If we don't, we go to overtime. And so the kids handled it beautifully, and the clock wound down, and we got under 10 seconds. And somebody set a screen for Pat. He came off that pick pretty nice, and he hit about a 18, 19-footer, and the game's over.
Well, Pat, tell us about the end of the game, the title game, and that game-winning shot that you hit.
Yeah, I'd love to. It was, I want to say we probably got the ball back on a Steve Huseby steal. And so a lot of people kind of forget about the things that led up to it, but I believe it was Steve Huseby that come up with this, a crucial steal. We were in a zone, and he was able to sneak out and cheat a little bit and got the steal. And I think it was about a minute and a half to go. And so we came down, and Cotter kind of, they maybe played into our hands a little bit in a sense that they didn't come out and pressure us. They kind of sat back, and so we were able to kind of work the clock down. Now, playing in the old Civic Center, the scoreboard was right above the center of the court, and there were no scoreboards on the end lines. And so as the point guard and handling the ball most of the time there, I wasn't able to see the clock. I wasn't able to see how much time was left. And so Peter Wohler would circle around from his spot and kind of come out to me and tell me how much time is left on the clock, because he would go down to the baseline and look up and see, and so he would kind of circle around and let me know how much time was left. And again, with that game preparation or situations, when it got to be under 10 seconds to go, Coach Haugen and our whole bench stood up and kind of said, okay, let's go. And Peter Wohler came out, set a screen, and I took the shot. And Craig, one of the things that I will say about that is that, there were 4 other guys on that court at that same time, and 7, 8 guys on the bench that, if they had given the opportunity, they would have hit that shot too, right? And what I tell people is it was because of my selfishness is that they didn't get the opportunity. But so that's kind of how that handled, and so we still had 6 seconds left after the shot went in. Cotter called timeout, and so there was still 6 seconds to go. Tim Rogelstad ended up getting a steal at the end, which they called a foul on him. But we had fouls to give. And so there again, that was one of those situational things. We knew that, Rog knew that. And so they fouled with like 2 or 3 seconds. And so they had the ball in the mid-court area. And one of the things, Craig, that I will tell you is that, so Cotter did get a shot off. And I think something that probably never really got talked about is Peter Larson blocked that shot. I know he did. He got a finger on it, which is huge, right? And so I'm not sure if anybody ever really wrote about that or talked about that, but that's another huge play in that 6 to 8 seconds time frame there at the end.
And when it came to talking about the community support for this 1984 team, Tim Rogelstad said the team was just overwhelmed.
Yeah, growing up in Pelican Rapids, I could not be more proud of that community, and really saw it with the support that they gave teams, and I think that's continued, and it was there before. We saw it in 1977. I'm sure it was there in '69 as well. But they just tremendous. I mean, across the board. It was always the last one out of Pelican Rapids turned the lights off as they head to the game, up to the tournaments and so forth. And so the tremendous support from the business community to our student body, just across the board, just phenomenal. And I think one of the things that really struck us as a team was on our way back, and we were going to have a gathering at the high school, and we hadn't really seen our fans, at the end of the game, and then that was it. And it was probably in those days we stayed over till Sunday, and we didn't come back till Sunday afternoon, and so it was just kind of our team, which was fantastic. But we hadn't really seen anybody, and then we get to they had a caravan, and started at the old Skelly station right off I-94 and 59. I remember the state highway patrolman kind of gave us our escort, and then when we got to Earhart, it was solid cars from Earhart to Pelican, and then we went into the gym, and it was completely full. The floor, people hanging out of the rafters, and again, just tremendous support, and something was quite an experience for sure.
And Pat Westby echoed that sentiment about the community support.
Oh man, you just got the goosebumps back on me again, because it was so unbelievable. The district and the regional games at Concordia, I mean, that place was jam packed every game we played, and it's really an undescribable feeling. Having so many people there, supporting you and our team and what we were doing. And then we go to the state tournament and there's, I don't know if there's anybody left in Pelican Rapids at that point, and then coming back on Sunday for the welcome home. That was holy cow. You didn't, I remember having a feeling of almost because we stayed down in the cities on Saturday night, and then we came back on Sunday, and, you were kind of by yourself, right? The team was by ourselves, and it's like, yeah, okay, we won a state tournament, big deal, right? I mean, because there was really nobody to celebrate with or whatever. And it really didn't hit home until we got to, getting off the interstate and coming into Earhart, and the cars just lined up for 6-7 miles straight. And, the welcome home celebration that was in the gym, and that place was just packed. And, it was quite emotional, right? I mean, it was at that point when you just realized how much support and backing there was from the community, and yeah, that's again, for any critic out there about high school athletics, I mean, I'll I'll argue every day of the week and twice on Sundays about what value that has to young kids, because that shaped, I would say many of us guys about who we are and who we became. I've always said that, the game of basketball opened some doors for me that certainly would not have been if it wasn't for basketball. And, so very thankful to that, to be able to experience that and to be in that environment.
What a great memory. The 1984 state championship Class A basketball team from Pelican Rapids. And congratulations again to Coach Rex Haugen on having the court at the Al Siegle Activity Center named in his honor. That special ceremony will take place between the JV and varsity games on Saturday afternoon at Pelican Rapids. Now, tomorrow we will wrap up our feature on the Pelican Rapids State Tournament teams, as we'll be joined by Coach Haugen again, and also by Brian Korf and Brian Hovland, two members of that 1993 State Tournament team from Pelican Rapids. In the meantime, have a great day. Hope to see you back here tomorrow.
You've been listening to The Sports Moment with Craig Olson, sponsored by Pemberton Law and Lake Area Docks and Lifts. Produced by Sunroom Lab. Music by Blue Red Roses. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and thanks for listening.